So by now what you have understood is that there is a body fluid, vascular system present in our body, which is very important for conducting the substances from one place to another. In fact, they are responsible for carrying the substances which are necessary for metabolism of cells, and the body fluid responsible for that is blood and lymph. Apart from that, you have understood that there is a main pumping organ, that is heart. It has a main role, pivotal role in conducting that vascular fluid throughout the body. And now we are going to see that how the circulation takes place. What are the types of circulations which take place inside our body, because basically we are dealing with the circulatory system. Now what is circulatory system all about? In simple terms, if you have understood, it is carrying one substance from one place to another place. Okay, because our body does not have special supply, or it is not as that of plants, which is accustomed to have each organ having its own supply of air and own supply of nutrients. Our body does not have such arrangement, and for such an arrangement there is a system which is required, and for that we have circulatory system. Now what we are going to study is how does the circulation takes place. So now first of all we have to understand about very important double circulation first of all. Secondly, we would understand about the portal systems, and third would be coronary artery system that we have to understand. Now these terms, they sound heavyweight, but they are very simple, because now you are quite clear with the basic fundamentals of this system and the physiology behind the systems. Now what you have to see is what is double circulation before we jump to other two types of circulation, which was, first one was hepatic portal circulation and the other one was the coronary artery circulation. So what we have to deal with now is double circulation. First of all, the double circulation, as the name suggests, that means the circulation would be taking place, but there would be two types of circulations which would be occurring, and each one being at some point different from the other. That is why they are classified into different categories. So as the name suggests, pulmonary circulation, first one is the pulmonary circulation and other one is systemic circulation. Now what you have to remember is that the name itself is speaking volumes about itself, that pulmonary is related to lungs. Now recall your knowledge about the respiratory system. Lungs were the site where exchange of gases took place. Now as the exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen is the basic function of lungs, this site would act in the pulmonary circulation. This site would act as the place where there would be exchange of gases. That means we are going to encounter the terms deoxygenated blood gets oxygenated at this place, and this circulation is responsible for carrying the deoxygenated blood from heart to lungs. So this is what the pulmonary circulation all about. Now that is not the only thing you have to remember. Apart from that, first of all understand what is systemic circulation. Now why does this exchange take place? You know that the exchange takes place because the tissues are in dire need of oxygen all the time for the respiratory purposes. So the oxygen which comes to the heart has to reach the organs, and for that we have systemic circulation. Alright, now in systemic circulation we have arteries and veins which carry material like nutrients, oxygen between the organs and heart. So this part deals with oxygenated blood from heart to the organs from where the deoxygenated blood is taken up. Alright, the oxygenated blood from heart would be given to tissues from where the deoxygenated blood would be taken up. So this is the systemic circulation. Because it is circulatory, it is cyclical, we have the systemic circulation, and in systemic circulation, according to some authors, there is a portal system and there is coronary artery system. Now let us see what this is all about by a simple line not a line diagram, by a block diagram, which helps us understand how the circulation takes place with respect to heart, because the main organ responsible for circulation of fluids, body fluids in the entire body happens to be heart. So we have to see the circulation taking place with respect to heart. Now I am going to take heart as the four-chambered part, where we have right auricle, right ventricle, left auricle, left ventricle. Now what happens is, supposedly this is right auricle, this would be right ventricle, this is left and left ventricle. Now you know what happens is, in the structure of heart you have seen that inside the right auricle comes the deoxygenated blood. It enters the right ventricle and it is thrown or pumped rather towards the lungs. Now this is the deoxygenated blood. This where from this deoxygenated blood has come? Of course, it would come from the tissues. So this deoxygenated blood arrives to, I am going to represent this with a blue colored felt pen so that you understand it in terms of deoxygenated. Our veins look blue in color because they have deoxygenated blood in it. They are not deep seated, that's why we don't see our arteries. Now this deoxygenated blood, it comes from right auricle to the right ventricle. Ventricle being highly muscular pushes this deoxygenated blood to the lungs, where the exchange of gases would take place and the blood would become oxygenated. Now this is the story of deoxygenated blood. Talking about the oxygenated blood, now what happens from the lungs? This oxygenated blood comes to the left auricle, the blood enters the left ventricle, it is pumped to the tissues. Again the same concept, the ventricle being highly muscular. There is a capillary system, entire branching system that would be present, something like this. A capillary system would be present near the tissues. So this part happens to be the tissue. Now what happens during this entire double circulation thing? The deoxygenated blood from the body comes and enters the right atrium of the heart. It is thrown into the right ventricle of the heart, from where it is pushed and pumped by the muscular contraction of the heart, which takes place within every 8 seconds. It is thrown into the, this is, let us recall the blood vessels as well. We are going to remember the names. This part, as it is bringing the deoxygenated blood to the heart, but because it is bringing something to the heart, we call it vena cava. Okay, these are the veins, they bring it. Okay, now this part, this particular region, because it is taking away the blood from heart, this would be known as pulmonary artery. Now you know it, why it is called pulmonary artery, because it is taking away the blood from over here. It is taking away blood from heart, so we call it an artery. Whatever takes blood away from heart is known as artery. So because it is taking the blood to the lungs, we call it pulmonary artery. And because this particular artery brings blood towards oxygen, though it is oxygenated, this would be known as pulmonary vein. Okay, and through aorta the oxygenated blood would reach towards the tissues. Now let us take an overview, simple one. Inferior and superior vena cavas, they bring the deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. They throw the blood into the right ventricle, from where it is pushed and pumped towards the lungs for exchange of gases, so that the carbon dioxide is thrown out of the body. It is pumped to the lungs through pulmonary artery. It takes away the blood from the heart towards the lungs, and the blood happens to be deoxygenated, and in return, when the blood has got rid of the carbon dioxide present in it, the oxygenated blood comes to the left auricle of the heart by pulmonary vein. When this left auricle receives the blood, again because the contraction is unanimous and uniform within the heart, it takes place simultaneously. This left auricle throws its blood into the left ventricle, which is oxygenated blood. Again, the aorta, it comes into the scene, which is the largest artery of the body. It pumps the entire blood to the tissues wherever it is required. So this particular part, this part which deals with the tissues and the heart circulation, that means the blood vessels, the tissues and the ventricles which are involved in pumping of the blood towards the tissues, that is known as systemic circulation, and the one which is involved in the transfer of blood towards the lungs in our body, that is known as pulmonary circulation. So I hope it is quite clear by now that there are two types of circulation, so pulmonary circulation and the systemic circulation. This is a very simple concept. One thing is that some part of the circulation deals with the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood for exchange of nutrients and oxygen, so that the tissues take them up. That part is known as systemic circulation, and the part that deals with the exchange of gases through the agency of lungs and its alveoli, that part is known as pulmonary circulation. So the blood vessels which are involved with the exchange involved at lungs, they would be part of pulmonary circulation, and those which are involved in the circulation which is paramount for the tissues, that would be in the systemic circulation. Next we are going to discuss about portal system. Okay. And after that we are going to discuss about coronary arteries. Let's take coronary arteries first before going to portal system. Now, what is in coronary artery circulation? Again, try to recall your lesson that where you had an intro to human heart. The circulation involved oxygenated blood's supply to the muscles of heart. So there are coronary arteries which are present in the heart muscles, and because heart muscles are in continuous stage of contraction and relaxation in the entire lifetime of a human being, so there must be abundant supply of oxygen and oxygenated blood, which I mean through which the oxygen would come. The coronary arteries need to be supplied with oxygen every time, and that oxygenated blood comes from the aorta itself. It enters and provides the heart's musculature the required oxygen, whichever is in the need of heart, and that is very important. And whenever this coronary artery system gets blocked or it is not functional, there is acute heart pain which occurs, because the muscles, they get in the stage of contraction and then the relaxation is not able to brought about, because the oxygen is not coming into the scenario, and because oxygen is very important for the ATP generation, that is why we need a coronary artery circulation within the heart muscles. Okay, now what is next is hepatic portal system. For that you need to see the next.